enough. I don't. Yeah, listen, it's. I will promise you, in my wildest dreams, I never would have thought of surfing the net for custodial standards. But it's people say you got to educate yourself, so I tried to educate myself. And it begs the question in this time. I mean, you can make an argument that you've got too many people based on your own standards. I'd like to know why. It's a simple question. And again, nothing against custodians, because my daughter speaks about the custodians in high school very, very positively. Shifting gears a little bit, and you may need to get back to me on this, but did the Board of Ed ever discuss in your budget deliberations the smaller capital items that you expend and how you budget for them? Gym safety pads, stage curtains, gym wall mats, well mats, cafe walls, kitchen steel cabinets, cafeteria lighting, corridor walls, curbing. Did you have any conversation about how you come up with the small stuff and how you budget for them?
I would have my people talk to me at the same time about this, but I know in the past we've talked about the gym mats, we've brought all these questions up and asked why do we need this year and that kind of thing. Is that what you're asking, or are you asking how we actually acquire them, the process for purchasing?
I'll tell you why I'm asking the question, because you probably figured me out by now. If you take a look at all of these items that you had in your 08-09 budget, I believe that this was a report that was given to the Board of Education on December 31st. It was for the end of the year, and you got it on January 8th, according to your minutes. There's a number of projects that jumped out at me that, not refuting the need, but, for example, one of the issues that you did at Hawley, and you're going to think I'm a little nuts at the beginning here, but one of the issues that you did at Hawley, you actually had in your budget a $15,000 amount. Okay, you approved spending $10,000, but when all was said and done, it was actually half of that.
And what was the project?
The doorknobs. I'll give you my list. Doorknobs delivering keypad per ADA. My issue is not with the project. Let me just finish answering my question.
Right.
My issue is not with the project. My issue is that if you go through this and do this as an exercise, okay, it's obvious to me that the amount of money that you had budgeted is markedly different than what you ended up spending. And in today's environment, right, I got over $150,000 in just those projects alone.
And I think we can't speak to that directly without going back and doing more research, John, but I will tell you, since I've been on the board and since Gino has been our facilities director, that he continually finds ways for us not to contract services out, but to have the work done in-house. And the one I remember distinctly was filling in the sunken wells at Hedda Meadow. That had been on our books for quite some time, and he had his own staff do it at a fraction of the cost. So where some of that might have happened in the past, it's because Gino was taking an existing budget and trying to save money. And even in this year's budget presentation, there were things that he said, we don't need that, we're going to do that in-house. So I can't talk to you specifically, but I will say that he's made a dramatic impact on the bottom line.
And that's great. But it begs the question about what you're budgeting this year. And
right.
I was going to ask you if somebody could give me a list of those projects.
Yeah, and we can get that to you next week.
And let me just jump to just to kind of put a fine point on it. In the middle school alone, if you take a look at some of the projects, like window repair, exhaust fans, most of those projects were budgeted for $20,000 and $15,000. And I guess it wouldn't. I understand. Interestingly enough, the high school coming in under budget. I should shut my mouth. But the variance in what you budgeted versus what you actually spent is, in those circumstances, it's $20,000 versus $6,000 actually. It's $15,000 versus $3,000 actually.
Done, but all the bills for those projects had not come in yet. Therefore, the numbers that were represented by that document do not show the actual final cost of what it's going to cost to do those things. And I'm wondering if that's
the case. That's an important clarification.
And I think
and
probably
noted, the only point I'll mention to you, David, is that I'm referring to a budget summary that Ron distributed to the Board of Ed on January 8th of this year.
And I think Gino came before us, and if I remember correctly, under questioning from Kathy, the question was whether or not we all had questions. Boy, how did it come in so cheap? And I think that part of that was that he had not received all the bills for some of the projects that had been completed, and he was going to get back to us with a final number. Now, I'm just trying to recollect this from 2 months ago, and I may be wrong, but I think that's the number. I think that might be the explanation as to why it appears that things are cheaper than they actually were. But certainly by next Wednesday, we could have Gino here, having looked at that list, and he could give us an answer.
Here's a ringing.
Gino. See, he's saving us money.
School, and they were snapping as they were doing the repair work, so we had to order some new parts. They were long lead items, so those are actually in process.
It'd be nice to know that. I think you'll find in the report that was handed to you, actually, the reason why I asked the question, it's that category is titled action costs, so I'm assuming that most of those are fairly accurate. You've got notes on some of the things in here that are in process. The only point I'm trying to bring up is that $150,000 in this environment is a very large amount of money. And it speaks to the issue of what you're budgeting and what you're planning to do. And however we can fix that would be if there's other things that we can do with that money versus budget.
And yeah, the dollar figures you see probably are what hit the books to date, and there's more. There's probably more coming towards those projects.
Could very well be. I think you'll find there's probably a fair amount of money going anyway.
I found the formula
For what?
for custodians. I knew I had it. 1 custodian for every 13 teachers, plus 1 custodian for every 325 students, plus 1 custodian for every 13 rooms, plus 1 custodian for every 18,000 square feet, total the above and divide by 4 to indicate the number of custodians. Then you need to add 0.06 to an elementary school for community usage, 0.25 to a middle school for community usage, and 0.50 to a high school for community usage, and that will give you a rough estimate.
Where'd that
CASBO, Connecticut Associations.
Is that a recommended thing?
I didn't learn that in graduate school, by the way.
Anybody else?
I have a couple of questions, John. Janet, I don't know if it was you or Lillian or Elaine that talked about retirements. Could you enlighten us as to what the average number of retirements have been over the last 3 or 5 years? I know this year may be different, but what's been our experience? Not only retirements, but people that are moving out.
Moving out of the district. You know what? I don't want to misspeak, so let me research that to give you an average. I will tell you that in the discussions in the state that we are seeing a decrease at this point in retirements because of the situation of people's portfolios being minimized. We only have 1 retirement and 1 person moving at this point.
So on Wednesday you'll give us some
Yes, I'll give you the app. Yeah.
Thank you. On page 63 of the budget book, there's a line item 63. This is in special ed. There's a line item, the 4th line down, called educational trainers. And the budget has gone from $122,000 in 07-08 to $204,000 last year.